This is an image showing one of the protests in Italy, where there are 600 municipalities that have passed resolutions to halt 5G. There are protests that are happening around the world. This is Amsterdam, Australia, California, many cities in California, Belgium, South Africa, Italy, New South Wales, Australia, New Zealand, Greece, Cyprus, Spain, England. We have many of this on our website. This is Juhi Chawla. She received the Indira Gandhi Memorial Award for her work on cell phone radiation and raising awareness about it. She is a famous actress in India, and she has been working on this for years, ever since she realized that in her apartment building across the way were all of these cell antennas. Please learn about her, Juhi Chawla. You can go online. Here she is. It's an incredible speech she does talking about the importance of taking action on this issue. I'm just going to play a short clip of it.
We wouldn't want that 20 years down the line, we have an entire population of young children, young adults, old, suffering from various health effects due to our negligence, our inaction, or our ignorance. ये उन्होंने तब कहा था.
And you can watch her whole speech. So, if wireless radiation is so safe, how come wireless companies warn their shareholders of risks, but not their customers, not the residents who live near their networks? We have a whole section on environmental health trust dedicated to this issue. The Crown Castle, Verizon, Vodafone, all of the cell phone companies actually state to their shareholders information such as Crown Castle, who's putting up small cell 5G short small cells everywhere. If radio frequency emissions from wireless handsets or equipment on our communications infrastructure are demonstrated to cause negative health effects, potential future claims could adversely affect our operations, costs, or revenues. And we currently do not maintain any significant insurance with respect to these matters. They don't have insurance because no insurance company will insure them for the long-term damages from radio frequency radiation, unless you get a special pollutant insurance, actually. Here is an image from a Vodafone where they're under the figure of our principal risks and interdependencies. They have climate change, Brexit, and they have the pandemic, and they have electromagnetic fields. This Swiss Re, which is an insurance authority, published a report on 5G, rating it off the leash. 5G is a high-impact emerging risk, affecting property and casualty claims and increasing cybersecurity threats. And insurance, when you buy a phone and you get insurance from AT&T or Sprint or T-Mobile, such as I have here, in the fine print, it says, we will not pay for loss caused directly or indirectly by pollutants. Under the definition of pollutants, it says pollutants means any solid, liquid, gaseous, or thermal irritant or contaminant, including smoke, vapor, soot, fumes, acid, etc., chemicals, and artificially produced electric fields, magnetic fields, sound waves, microwaves, and all artificially produced ionizing or non-ionizing radiation and waste. So it's defined as a pollutant by the companies themselves. Many white papers are on our website where it's discussed as the next asbestos. Please take a look at Dr. Deborah Davis, our president and founder's books, The Secret History of the War on Cancer and Disconnect, The Truth About Cell Phone Radiation. There is reports we have online showing how industry has inserted itself into the science and policy. This report is a Harvard report called Captured Agency, documenting how the Federal Communications Commission is a captured agency. and how US Congress receives millions from industry. So we have tactics, which are big tobacco tactics, being used when it comes to cell phone radiation. And the FCC is captured because former industry executives and lawyers have gone on to become leadership at the Federal Communications Commission. And then when they leave, they turn around and go back to industry, as is the case for Tom Wheeler, who used to head up the wireless industry CTIA, then became the chair of the FCC, laid the groundwork for 5G, and now is back, by the way, advising our government. He was quoted in a recent GAO report. You have Ajit Pai, he just left as chair of the FCC, former Verizon lawyer, FCC chair, now working for Capital Partners, and which has telecommunications work. Here's Tom Wheeler as talking at the CTIA, and here he is as the FCC. This is not special to the United States. In Italy, here we have Vodafone CEO, who is now Minister for Technological Innovation and Digital Transition in the government. Just goes on and on. The CDC has web pages that we have documentation are written by industry-funded scientists. This page, according to our FOIAs, was written under the tutelage or when there was a scientist brought on as a subject matter expert to help them draft this text, who we know was funded by industry because it states it on his papers, and also because for Dr. Kenneth Foster, who was brought on for the CDC, if you go to the Mobile and Wireless Forum, that's one of those large wireless organizations made up of all the wireless companies around the world. They have the report on all the research that they've sponsored. And here's an example of their 5G research. And here you see Foster. And of course, he's been published for years by with funding from industry to do so. He also helped to do the CDC webpage on non-ionizing radiation, where if you go to this page, good luck to you to find anything about the risk from exposure to non-ionizing radiation. If you don't know anything about the issue, go to the CDC, you find this page. It says, what is the risk from exposure to non-ionizing radiation? And then it talks about how we're exposed, that may result in damage to heat, but this is not common and mainly of concern in the workplace for those who work with large sources of non-ionizing radiation devices and instruments. If you click on that link, you're going to go to a page that I think will confuse most people. It's an outdated page at the OSHA. Absolutely not. Oh, sorry about that. Not useful to finding out basic things like, is there science showing harm? What does the science say? Instead, we are just led down a hole to as if there's no problem. I did a FOIA request to the Federal Communications Commission on whether they'd ever done a environmental assessment on 5G. And they stated that they have reviewed the records. They found 2 emails and 3 draft documents responsive to my request. And these records are being withheld completely under FOIA exemption number 5. The EPA's websites were all completely scrubbed and redone in 2019. Now, they didn't have all the information on them previous to this, but they did say that, that safety was still, the research was still being done, a little bit more nuanced, but now everything was completely redone. And it says things like a few studies have connected radio frequency and health effects, but scientists have not been able to repeat the outcomes. The New Hampshire Commission on 5G and Health and Environment was formed from a law that was passed a few years ago in New Hampshire. A commission came together and worked for an entire year to review the science and on the health impacts and environmental impacts of 5G. Their report, so I hope everyone on this call takes a look at the New Hampshire report on 5G. They recommend in an independent study of 5G health effects that the FCC should do an environmental assessment on 5G, that federal agencies with ecological knowledge should develop radio frequency radiation limits that will protect trees, bees, birds, insects, and pollinators, because we have no limits that were ever set to protect our wildlife. And here's another image of an antenna with the intensity. This is from Kakao again. Birds, bees, trees, they will be receiving those intense exposures, even higher than humans. This picture, shockingly, was on a PowerPoint done by a in a telecommunications presentation. And here we have birds with a nest right on the antennas. Birds perch on antennas. When I wrote the EPA about this, and you can go online and read the long letter, I said, so what agency has reviewed the research on damage to trees? And they said, they don't have a funded mandate for radio frequency radiation matters. What agency has reviewed the research on impacts to birds and bees? And the EPA told me, the EPA does not have a funded mandate for radio frequency radiation matters. What agency has reviewed the research on damage to memory from cell phone radiation? And the EPA said, EPA's last review was in the 1984 document Biological Effects of Radio Frequency Radiation. And if you go to that, there are documented many effects that were found at that time in various studies. Here again is birds. Here's a cell phone case that's decorated with bees. I mean, it just blows my mind because bees have been shown to be impacted by wireless radiation. The New Hampshire Commission also recommended a multimedia campaign to educate the public on how to minimize radio frequency radiation, especially for newborns, pregnant women, via radio, television, multimedia. They also recommended setbacks between cell network infrastructure and schools and homes. They recommended establishing wireless-free zones and educating the medical community to develop protocols for people harmed by electromagnetic fields. I have here doctors and public health officials from the Archbishop Macarius Hospital, where they have removed wireless from the pediatric and neonatal units. You can go online into Environmental Health Trust and watch on our YouTube channel, as well as our web pages of the work of Cypress and a video that they made about that. The New Hampshire Commission recommends software and hardware changes to reduce radio frequency radiation from the body. Actions in the United States include resolutions to halt 5G from Keene, New Hampshire, Hawaii County, Hawaii, Easton, Connecticut, Farragut City, Tennessee. Resolutions related to the federal government taking action from localities, from cities in Florida, Indiana, Bend, Oregon, New York, and resolutions calling for other changes to federal law so cities can control where these antennas go in their communities. Let me get this piece. There are many cities that have established setbacks between wireless antennas and homes, especially in California and in New York and other cities. We have this all on our website at environmentalhealthtrust.org. There are many places where there are setbacks. So here's some example of setbacks. 1,000 feet in Calabasas, California, and Petaluma, 500 feet of these small cells distanced from homes. There are cell tower setbacks for schools and homes in different communities like Shelburne, Massachusetts, or Walnut, California, or Palo Alto, California, or even in Oklahoma, where they have a 1,500 foot setback between the cell tower and a residence or structure. Here's some examples of what we have online for you at Environmental Health Trust. These are resources you can download showing what countries are doing what. We also have one on the United States. We have information on the over 20 governments recommending that you reduce cell phone radiation, especially to children. Schools and homes are regarded as sensitive areas, and we have links to the laws that they have in their respective countries. So I have so much, my time is running short, but in addition to keeping the phone away from your head, reducing your time on the phone, using corded connections, please do not sleep near charging devices. This is like the number one easy low-hanging fruit. At night, have a safe space. Create a low EMF sleep sanctuary. Don't have charging devices, don't have wireless devices near your bed. Use a battery-powered alarm clock. If you have a smart meter, ensure it is an analog meter. See if you can get an analog meter on your home because they emit wireless radiation. They also pollute the electricity in the home. Find a local smart meter or 5G group in your state. Get a corded landline for your home and office. Can't recommend this enough so that you can have your long voice calls on a corded landline. Devices should not be on the laps of children or your own body or anyone's body. Always have devices on a table. Turn the wireless radiation off and use corded connections. You can get Ethernet. This is what it looks like. Plug in your mouse and all your peripherals with wires corded, not with wireless or Bluetooth. We have information on how to do this on our website at Environmental Health Trust, ehtrust.org. Here's my computer and how it's set up with a wire. Here's a tablet setup. Here's how you can use a corded connection. And here's our website, Environmental Health Trust. We hope you will join us, take a look at what we have. We have resources showing how 5G is going to exponentially increase energy use. And I think I've come to an end here. But thank you so much, and I look forward to coming back next year.